Kicking It with Y9, and welcome to the Barnburner TV network on ZingoTV channel 250. Please remember to download both the Barnburner and ZingoTV apps in their respective iOS and Android app stores. While you download, please make sure to rate and leave a comment, and remember both apps are free. ZingoTV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nathan Fernandez, and welcome to another edition of Kicking It with Y9. We are once again joined by Mr. Thivian V, who's wearing his York 9 away kit because it's going to be a pretty interesting episode today. And Thivian, I'm glad you wore the jersey. I
Yeah,
should.
and also before we start as well, the information that we are going to give you, it is of course within the fans' point of view as well. So please, if you are watching this as well, please share this video and give it to all York Nine supporters because we are giving you the proper news, we are giving you the proper opinions, and yeah, let's get on with it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, guys, like today's episode is a huge episode because if you listen to our last week's show, you'll know that we had this kind of rant going on about like how what York 9 was doing in their off season. And as the week went on, it became more clear that, ladies and gentlemen, this year York 9 are entering a rebuild season. Rebuild meaning that the club is kind of getting rid of all of the players that they had for the past two seasons and are now starting from scratch. And normally with a soccer team, the term rebuild is not something you necessarily associate with soccer. When you hear the word rebuild season, you think of like basketball teams or hockey teams, where basketball, for example, when almost every team has three core players, three big players. And when those teams enter a rebuild, it means that they're now trading those core three players, trying to build some youth and bring in a new set of core three players. So that's like in basketball, that's really what rebuild means. Like you finished with that phase of those three big players and you're now moving on to something new. But in terms of soccer, rebuild is not necessarily something that is heard of before because normally in soccer you're allowed as a lot of transfers. It's not a trade based type thing in soccer.
Mm-hmm.
So normally teams go out and they select individual players who they think will like improve their team overall, not fully replace their team. But York 9 are now replacing their entire team. We saw last week with the signings of with the young signings of like Felix and Sa. We ended up signing his brother Kristinovic and Sa, who, don't get me wrong, is a massive player. He's a great player, joined from Halifax, was a U21 MVP last year. A really, really good player. He's a fullback, right back, but he's also known to play center back as well, or even center defensive mid. Today, York 9 announces the signing of former Cavalry goalkeeper Nico Giantsopoulos. Again, we signed another big goalkeeper who's going to come in and maybe take Nathan Ingham's spot. Kristinovic and Sa, he's done so well at right back. Could that mean he's replacing Maury Donor at right back? So you can see now, Thivian, that this team is really uprooting themselves. We saw like Manny Aparicio, the captain, our inaugural season captain, inaugural captain for York 9, left to join Pacific FC. Like, what does that mean for this team? Like, a rebuild, I kind of feel bad for Jimmy Brennan.
Mm-hmm.
How do you coach a team? How can we as fans expect a coach to deliver results with a squad that he does not even have control of?
Mm-hmm.
It almost seems like Jimmy Brennan doesn't really have a say in the matter, and the York 9 management with Angus McNabb and all their other scouting directors are kind of going in and getting players, whichever players they want. And it's, as a coach, it's kind of difficult. Vivian, I want to ask you, first of all, aside from the York 9 rebrand, to to have a successful team as a coach, what pieces do you need? Like, you've seen it with Liverpool, obviously. They
Mm-hmm.
had a great, they kind of maybe you could say went through a rebuild, not really. They, like in soccer, they kind of slowly improved.
Right.
Fully see how the ownership let the coach kind of make the decisions and stamp his authority on
Mm-hmm.
transfers and on-field play. how important is it for a coach or a like Jimmy Brennan? How important is it for him to have a majority of the say in these transfer policies so that he can develop a squad and kind of implement his coaching style?
Before I do answer that question, I do want to talk about what it does mean and everything, and I'll do answer the question by the end of it. First and foremost, this team has been actively in York. They were one of the first teams to be in the soccer league as well. The league started in what, 2018, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
So you got to understand as well. It's been 2 years, and right off the bat, they're like, okay, let's start the reset button. Let's try to change and everything. That is not a good look for it, right? And what they did say in like the newsletter and everything is that we should be very excited for this. But you got to question, why are we going to be excited for something where we are most likely not going to compete? You see, with Pacific FC, they made big strides. They took a player from us, Manny Aparicio. Why? He was one of our best players in that season. So why are we giving away someone like an asset like him? And realistically speaking, what will York Nine fans be excited about? Realistically speaking, because you're taking away big players and everything, they have to gel in and everything. You saw it like this season where we did buy a lot of transfers and everything. We looked bounded to actually, we should have made it in the top four, but we didn't.
Yeah.
So how are York Nine fans going to be excited to, come into the team to actually watch their team when we want to make improvements and we're like, you know what? No, we're gonna make a restart of it. We're pretty much an expansion team like Atletico and everything, right? And Atletico Ottawa, their fans are gonna be they were excited, they were happy, they probably were happy because look, they were able to compete at the highest level and they almost made it to the playoffs, right? They were only like what? I think like to the playoffs it was like 10 points, I believe, 11 points, somewhere around that. Right, and they were only 3 points away. That is a big strides for a team that just came into the Canadian Premier League. York Nine that is already established. You got to look at it as a fan. It's like, hold on a minute. And to answer your question about the Jimmy Bremen situation, I mean, yes, 100%. Like, how is Jimmy Bremen expected to, take the squad and to expect to make them gel quickly all in one season, right? There's going to be discrepancies and everything, and the expectations for him is now going to be lower because of it. But then, as fans, how we are going to look at it, it's like, we're rebuilding and everything. Why should we be excited, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, go on.
Yeah, sorry. I like how you bring up the Atletico Ottawa point because there in Atletico Ottawa, you can see how it's like they've kind of given Mista, the coach, kind of given him a big say on transfers. And you've seen with the players that Atletico Ottawa did bring in, their core players as such, Benjamin Fisk, Nacho Zabal, Francisco Acuna, Vidi Martinez. These are all Spanish-speaking players. They're very selective and they're very like when you saw Atletico's style of play, you knew exactly what style of play they wanted to bring because those kind of players implemented. Like you could see Atletico Ottawa wanted big center backs, big defensive midfielders who can win the ball and then spray it up top to the wings or where and Acuna and Van Fisk who are kind of smaller, diminutive kind of players.
And so, that's the thing with Atletico Ottawa as well, right?
Yeah.
They have an academy around them where they're like, okay, even though many players might, go back and everything, they still have players that know their style of play, what they want and everything. So new players that do come in, they know what they want, they know what to expect, and they can perform and everything. And I'm pretty sure like the Ottawa, like the big heads of it are very communicative when it comes to the club about that, right? But for someone like York Nine, where they're just like, okay, we should be all excited to see this brand new team. But you got a question like, why? Like, is there a plan about like how the style of play is going to be? How they're gonna gel in? Are we actually going to be competing this time, or are we just going to see like a new team and we're like, okay, let's not put expectation? And it really is going to put a detriment of whether or not York Nine fans who have been watching it for 2 years, if they want to buy a season ticket or not. Because at the end of the day, we want this team to be successful, right? And of course, there's going to be those hardcore supporters, right? But there are supporters as well that they want to see them at least compete, at least show fight. So to tell them that right now, okay, we should be excited because it's a new team and everything. We know that what happens if there's like a new team and everything, more or less likely they're not going to compete in that year.
Yeah, you look at other expansion, like you look around to other teams, other leagues that kind of have the same kind of policy as the CPL, where you bring in expansion teams, and the first thing you think about is you look towards Major League Soccer, and you look at them and you see every time they have an expansion team, that expansion team doesn't seem to fare really well in the first years. And then obviously later on, they bring in more players to improve, and then slowly, they kind of go up to the title. So their expansion team, it's fine. That's necessarily building from scratch. But then afterwards, it's almost like, that saying, taking two steps forward, two steps back, one step forward.
No, it's two
That's what I
steps. It's two steps forward. Well, no, one step forward, two steps back.
Two steps back. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I feel like York Nine is doing right now. They're making all of these big name signings like Kristinovic Insah and Giantsopoulos to kind of, it's to make fans happy temporarily. But I guess the fans that they're kind of catering to and the people who are so excited about these transfers are not thinking about the bigger picture. When you
hmm,
have so many pieces or of your team that don't really know each other, haven't really played before, and are now all coming to want to bring them together. First of all, everyone, there's no hiding it. Something happened in the past 2 seasons. There was an off-field incident where team chemistry was at a pretty all-time low. So now you're bringing a bunch of brand new players. Who's to say that that team chemistry is going to improve once you've taken out all the players, good players? When you've lost a player like Luca Gasparotto, who's one of our best defenders over the past 2 years, for the rest of our back four, the three players, and even the goalkeeper, how are
right,
they going to react? They don't have that big center back to rely on anymore. They
one
don't
hundred
know
percent. Yeah,
who the new players, they don't know what they're going to play like. It's so difficult even as a player, as a coach. Like I'm looking at it the way from a standpoint where I've played soccer before and I know how difficult it is to kind of join into a new team. And the more successful teams that the teams that find the most success are the teams that have players who know each other, know how each other play. And
right,
when you're having a rebuild, that is not going to happen. It is so much easier to bring in new players into a team where this whole squad really knows each other and they're more welcoming to newer players. And they kind of bring them into their circle. Whereas now you have players who are now in their kind of individual circles that you're trying to now connect the dots and put mesh together. It
right.
just does
Yeah.
not work. It does not work. I don't know who is coming up with this transfer policy, but ladies and gentlemen, I am so sorry to say this, but I am not optimistic for this upcoming season. I don't expect us to make it into like even top three. Vivian and I were talking.
Yeah, and what I do want to say as well, like look at it this way. We have 8 teams right now, so it's very easy to come back. But then imagine that we have more and more teams, and there are going to be more and more teams that come into the CPL and everything. What is going to happen if we continue this trend going forward and everything? And I know it's a pessimistic point of view and everything. However, right away we're already like thinking of rebuild. Why are we thinking about rebuild if when we've only been competing for like 2 years and everything? It doesn't make sense at all. It
Mhm.
really doesn't. And like I think a lot of York Nine fans would feel the same way if they're following it really deeply. Like people like you would question it as well. And I don't know. And the sad thing is as well is the club is not communicating as well. All they've said is what it was like we should be excited for it. But logically speaking, we're not. Look at the way Knicks is run as well, where they're always trying to rebuild and everything and whatnot. Why would you want to be optimistic there? And to put
Yeah.
into context with the whole like bringing new players in, take a team like Aston Villa for example, where they paid too many players and everything. They almost got relegated because of it, right?
Mhm.
And the difference between last season and this season so far is that now they already have a core players. They got like a couple of players to come in and everything, so everybody knows what they need to do and everything. And right now they're doing okay so far, pretty exceptionally well, considering otherwise.
Yeah, of course. Like you just wonder like what is happening to this team. I kind of look at it and I think the point that comes to mind is there's not a lot of kind of in this York Nine ownership, I may be wrong, but there's a lot of kind of foreign opinions that are kind of coming up with this, trying to stamp their authority on this team, and nobody really knows exactly, like, I'd say the local, like, people, they talk about York Region and York Nine and how we're the municipalities, but is there really people in this club who's actually thinking and wants to put out a successful team in this region? Because right now, when you look at it, they're just trying to, like, buy younger players, develop them, and then sell them. We saw this in the first year where they um, brought in Emilio Estevez.
Hmm.
I feel so bad for Emilio Estevez because he didn't really get a real opportunity in York Nine's first year, and as soon as, like, a small offer came in, we sold him. And they're now obviously in Otto Den Haag. He's not had the greatest starts to his career there. He's not getting many minutes. He's kind of just training, not receiving any time with the
Hmm.
first team. And you just wonder, is that because he didn't really get enough time to showcase himself at York, that they shipped him out as soon as they
Hmm.
could? And that's what happens now. You're not developing talent. You're not developing talent. You're
And what
just
I want to say as
yeah.
well, to add on as well, the main concern as well, one of the other main concerns is the way they're communicating about it, right? As a
Mhm.
club, you want to know what your club is about, right?
Yeah.
And what your intentions for how the team is shaped and everything. What is the model going forward? You should have an idea of it as a supporter. Right now, I'm seeing that we're restarting everything, and we don't have a particular idea or way that we want to project this club and how we're going to build this team going forward either. We just
Mhm.
know that we should be really happy because big changes are going to happen.
Yeah.
What does that say? What does that say to you, honestly?
For me, it just makes me feel that I don't feel connected to this club. I like certain there obviously any fan would like certain players in a team, and right now you don't know if your favorite player is going to stay with the team or not, or they might get shipped out somewhere else. And obviously, like, I kind of watch York Nine a lot more than the average fan. So
Right.
obviously I'm from the area, like, they're the only team
And
that's pretty
but
close to
I
me.
want to let you continue, but I just want to say as well, if Aprizio, if you're watching this, thank you for what you've done for the club. You have been an amazing servant, especially in the big moments that we had uh, during last season and everything. And it's such a shame that you didn't want to continue your journey on here because you were absolutely sublime and important to all of us. So greatly thank you first and foremost. But that's the thing as well. We need to really understand and everything. We cannot just like throw people, like you said before, throw people out of the bus and say like, okay, well where's the justification?
Yeah, like you said, like, with Aparicio, like I was saying before, if I'm a fan of Aparicio who is just starting to watch York Nine, why the hell would I stay with York Nine? If they got rid of my favorite player, why would I, like, and there's nothing exciting about them. You've seen in our style of play with the island games, what is exciting about the product that York Nine is putting out on the pitch? There's no attacking play. We're not scoring. We're not preventing goals from entering the back of the net. There is nothing when you watch York Nine games this season in
Hmm.
the island games. I honestly felt that every game I could have fallen asleep
I mean,
because
the only game that was convincing was the what is it, the Forge game
the
and everything,
Fords game,
where
yeah,
that was the only one that was exciting. It's like, okay, cool, this is what we could be. Now let's try to produce it every time.
yeah.
And we just never did.
Yeah, like, you don't even know what style of play we're gonna go in with. You don't even know, like, how we're gonna play. You don't even know what players are gonna be in the team week in, week out. What is, as a fan, what is there to kind of grab onto? What is there to make you think about this team when the team is not playing? And that's what builds a culture and builds fans and stuff. People want to think about this club when they're not playing games. Not like this is insane. Like, I struggle to imagine what their mentality, like, what this club is aiming to do, because I can't see them making money out of
I
this if
mean, they're gonna make a loss definitely for next season if they
yeah.
don't add anything more to this right now, or they don't communicate things well. Because at the end of the day, their football is gonna show what they're about and everything, right? And that's the main
Yeah.
important thing. It doesn't matter about, okay, how we're gonna, if we're gonna add these things. No, your football speaks for itself. That's how you're gonna generate money uh, going forward and everything. If you do win the big titles and everything, and that's why Forge has a cult following, and we don't right now.
Yeah, of course. Like, so I want to point this out. Everybody slated FC Edmonton for the past 2 years for their performances. We saw Jeff Paulus even retire, saying that there needs to be a change of voice. That club is at an all-time low right now. And you just wonder why that is. And that's because they don't really have players that want to go to FC Edmonton. Nobody really wants to play there. They haven't really developed a footballing culture there in Edmonton. And they're kind of struggling to get results. In York, there's one difference. York 9 is situated in Toronto. And one thing that I've noticed, I don't know about you, Vivian, is that with every single player that we've signed recently, everyone's like, oh, I'm so happy. The biggest thing for me is I wanted to be home. I wanted to play closer to my family. Chris Novick in Saw, literally, he came to play in Toronto, play for York because he wanted to be in Toronto with his brother. Nico Giantsopoulos, player signed today. He came to Toronto, came to York 9 because York Region is his home. I'm sorry, but if you're a football club, that is a pathetic excuse that you're
Mhm.
bringing in. The players want to come to your club because they're going to play closer to home. Obviously, they're going to want to in this league because a lot of them don't make enough money to kind of have their own kind of house and life somewhere else. That
I
is,
mean, if we're basing transfers off that, that's a horrible thing, first and
yeah,
foremost. And imagine this: if York Nine doesn't continue to pump out like a certain success amount, imagine if this club get liquidated. That would be embarrassing. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it straight out. That would be embarrassing because look at the region you are in. You have 1 million people out here. 1 million people. It's a joke, man. It's a joke, and that's the frustrating thing. Imagine that. Imagine that if you continually, if you don't continue to make certain success and everything, it would be a joke.
yeah, it is a joke because like you look at that and like people should want to come to your club because they like your style of play. They're excited to see what you can do in the future.
And the population you're in at as well. The
Yeah.
population you're in is one of the highest populations in in Canada, the whole of York region, right?
Mhm.
So you should be able to attract more people. But no, we're not attracting, and we have to rebuild now. It's just it's horrific because logically speaking, we should be one of the best clubs
Mhm.
in terms of fans and everything and what we can bring in,
Yeah.
but we're not.
Yeah, we're not. And like I just don't know where this club is headed. As a fan who like normally as a fan you kind of know where your club is headed in the future. Like what are we doing? Are we competing for the title? Are we kind of falling down? Are we not
Hmm.
expected to compete this year? You just don't know with this club. What is their plan for the future? And I do fear that this club is going to get liquidated. I think they're going to
Hmm.
go out of business. I think that
Now
it's
we don't want to make assumptions too quickly. First and
yeah.
foremost, right? The things could change.
Mhm.
However, what we want, and York Nine, and if York Nine officials are listening to this, what we want is better communication. We want communication of where we are going, how the club is functioning, and as fans, what can we do as well? Because at the end of the night, right, we want this club to succeed. We don't want to continuously rebuild and everything and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, population wise, we should be one of the top clubs out there, right?
Mhm.
And Forge has already won 2 titles. As a York Nine fan, you should be absolutely just derailed. You're some like Hamilton in general is like a low populated city compared to
Yeah.
us, and they're already winning more time. Why? Why does it have to be that case? Why? You
Yeah,
know, you got.
like you don't know with this club and I feel like I know it's already 2:25. Like this went by so quickly and I feel like we need to talk about this thing for like the next few episodes as well because slowly as news comes out, you're going to see even more worse and worse decisions and like like I don't know about you, Vivian, but I'm genuinely scared to see what happens to us next year.
Yeah, so guys, if anything, please tune in more. If you do have any more information, we will give you the information as always. And yeah, please tune in while you can.
Yeah, of course. Like, tune in. That's all we can ask. Like, As fans, the two of us right now are voicing our opinion, and two people in a York region and a York 9 following, that's not enough. We need more people to voice their opinion to really get what us as fans want. We're not going to get anything if we sit around idly and just hope for the best. If you're concerned with the club and how it's functioning, you need to voice your opinion, because at the end of the day, that's your money going towards this club. The club is not losing any money. They can, if like you are losing your hard-earned money. Your job is not to work for this club. Your job is to kind of go there and spend money to entertain yourself. And if you're not receiving that entertainment, then I'm sorry. You need to say something about it.
Let's just
Any
continue quickly.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, that is all the time we have for today's show. Thank you, Vivian, for joining us once again. This show can also be heard on the Barnburner Radio Network on its 122 platforms. Please check us out at barnburner.ca for all of the sports news. Barnburner, watch it, hear it, read it, download it,